Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. You are watching the 2026 NFL Draft Prospect Show with Joey Clinkscales, with Brian LeBel. I'm Harper LeBel. We are pleased to go over some of the top draft picks that are going to be a part of the 2026 draft. I know it's a long way away, but we're getting ready now. We're going to feature two players here today. One of them, Ohio State wide receiver Carnell Tate. The other, Texas A&M edge rusher Cashius Howell. Guys, let's start with Carnell Tate. Here's a guy that, Brian, I know you said it 100 times. I'll start with you just for a real quick comment. You've said this for about the past 3 or 4 years. Whoever the wide receiver coach is at Ohio State University for the last 10 years, that guy should probably be president of the United States. That's not how you put it, but what a great job he's done, because one after another, the Buckeyes are producing guys and getting them into the pros. They're great at what they do in college. They get better. There's room for improvement. And Carnell Tate is certainly one of those guys that fits in the mold. Am I correct there? I mean, is this just another guy that's going to be plug and play ready at the NFL level?
Oh, absolutely. I think he could be anybody's wide receiver too going into next season as a rookie. He's tremendous. Brian Hartline, who is the receiver coach at Ohio State, should be a head coach somewhere else. Just what he's able to do. The teaching tape that he has, what he's able to take a lot of these guys, the raw talent of receiver stock that Ohio State brings in. These guys can fly. They got otherworldly talent and strength and agility and whatever else, but he's able to hone their skills. He's able to say, we're going to get your footwork NFL ready. We're going to get your mindset NFL ready. We're going to teach you the NFL route tree, everything you're going to have to do at the next level. And it works year after year after year. And Carnell Tate just happens to be the 2025 model. So that's just, he's got a ton of talent himself. If you watch him play, his awareness near the sidelines, his ability to make catches in traffic, his strength, his route running, everything else. But it's teaching tape. It's what Brian Hartline does. It's what Ohio State wide receivers do, and it's part of the reason why they have so much success year in and year out in college football.
You mentioned Brian Hartline, and Joey, what does it mean to you as a general manager, a player personnel director, a director of scouting, or just a guy that goes in to watch these guys play and watch, when you see the consistency of how he teaches versus what other coaches, I'm not saying that they don't teach the same stuff. They probably do, but maybe not identically, but there's a noticeable difference, because the result is I got a guy that can play for me, and I know he's been well coached, and I know that this kid is going to be ready to go as soon as we sign him. And we're going to put a uniform on him, and he's probably, as Brian said, he's going to be our number 2 guy from the get-go.
Well, it's a couple things here at play. The fact that he's at Ohio State tells me that he was one of the top players coming out of high school. Okay, so it's not like he's taking a mule and making a racehorse out of him. So the guy has talent first and foremost. Now Sure. He's at Ohio State being coached by this guy, and he's coming into the league pro ready, because all the technique and the training that he's getting from Coach Hartline and the staff and the offensive staff at Ohio State has been tremendous. And those guys are coming in the league and they're ready to go. But again, you're starting with talent, so you're not starting at the floor. You're starting in the middle of the pack, and then you're working your way up. But this is what I'll say about him from a standpoint of I'm gonna start with a question. What is the most overrated trait for a receiver?
Speed.
That's it right there. Speed is the most overrated trait. If you go back and you look at all the receivers in the NFL Hall of Fame, a lot of those guys aren't 4 or 5 guys. I got news for you. You get the Chris Carters, the Jerry Rices, Terrell Owens like to tell you that, but I timed Terrell Owens coming out of Tennessee, Chattanooga, and he was a 4.52, 4.55 guy. That's what he was. So he might tell you that he runs a 4.3 now at 89 years old, whatever he is. But
he might.
You know what I mean? One of those deals. But speed is the most overrated trait in a wide receiver. You have Puka Nacua. He's not a 4.4 guy.
Cooper Kupp's
not a 4.4 guy. You got a ton of those other guys. But the thing this guy can do where he's elite, he's got elite body control, I think. He's a natural hands catcher. You watch him run routes. He can drop his weight. He can get in and out of a cut, get in and out of a comeback. Now, not every team runs that anymore in the way the offenses are run today. But all those natural skill traits that you have to have from a flexibility standpoint to be able to drop your weight, get in and out of routes, the subtle things that you do when you're breaking out of a route, feeling the where the defensive back is. He has all those small things that make a great receiver. So this guy, I think, is going to go into the draft, and I do think he's going to run a low 4.5, high 4.4, low 4.5. He's a strider. He's a build-up speed guy. So he's not going to come off the ball like this, but he's a build-up speed guy, and I do think the speed is a little bit deceiving, and you can see that on tape. But he's got a wide, big catch radius. He can catch away from his body, and it's all really natural and easy for this guy to do. I really like his skill set for a guy that's 6'3", 195.
6'3", 195. Height is above average. The weight is probably a little bit below average. And, Joe, I'm going to tease you. A slow guy is the one that says, hey, speed isn't all that important. And I'm teasing. I played with Steve Largent. I played with Chris Carter. I know that there's some guys that are out there. I'd rather have them than Willie Gault. No offense to Willie Gault, who's one of the fastest human beings. With Dion, I played with him, right? But who do you want to catch the ball on 3rd and 7? Who's going to get you the 8 yards that you need, or get the ball in the end zone? Above average height, below average weight, and a below average 40 time at 4.6. Brian, he caught 44 passes here in 2025 going into the Big Ten championship, and then obviously the Ohio State's going to be in the playoff. 18 yards per reception, 8 touchdowns. He has 2 carries for 16 yards, no touchdowns there. In 2024, he had 4 touchdowns on 52 catches. In 2023, he had 18 catches, 1 touchdown. So now that he's getting a chance to play more, what sticks out in your mind's eye about what he does that is deserving of a first-round draft pick? Is it the way he has breaks out of a route, his ability to get open or to read a zone defense and just sit down? All qualities that you want, catching the ball with your hands, getting the 50-50 balls. Is it a little bit of everything? And if so, what else do you notice in him that makes him so surprisingly good?
Yeah, I think it is a little bit of everything, because the only real knock on him is that his speed isn't 4.4, right? He's not running a 4.45. That's the only thing you can really take away from him, because, the size, he can put on a couple pounds if he needs to. The footwork is already very, very crisp. The route running is very, very crisp. He's strong for how skinny his frame is. He truly is. And he has the ability to go up over safeties, up over DBs. A lot of times he doesn't have to, because even without the speed, he's got tremendous separation. Everything he does is at it's next level stuff. He's doing it already at an NFL type level. And I think that's why a lot of teams, especially, I don't really want to throw out the pedigree there, but producing at Ohio State, especially this year, they got a big target on their back. They're the best team in college football. They won everything last year. And they're winning games week in and week out against good opponents, and it's just business as usual. And Carnell's a big part of it. And I think the only knock on him is he can't put up better numbers, because a lot of times in the fourth quarter they're playing from ahead, so you're almost knocking a quarter of the game out of the way as far as production is every single week. But I don't think he particularly cares. All he's known throughout his college career is basically winning, and he's been this year. It's his turn to be a big part of what Ohio State's doing.
Well, speaking of what Ohio State's doing, Joey, they have a system. They've got certain guys that they want to have touch the ball. They've got a quarterback and an offensive line that's going to protect. But, Smith is their number one receiver. And this is a guy that if he's not open, guess who you can throw to with some dependency. I like that. We did mention a little bit as he's not the best run blocker that's out there. He'll get better. And that's an effort thing, right? Someone's going to coach him up to do that right. I did notice that there was one comment that says his frame isn't NFL ready yet, meaning he's a little too skinny, and he lacks elite talent. But you said a little bit earlier in what we were talking about just a few moments ago, there are some elite things that he does. He's as good as anybody that's out there. That is what puts you at elite. If you're better than or above what the rest of the pack is, that would put you in that category. So give me a little bit more of a definitive aspect of what, we know he has some weaknesses, but still his strengths by far outweigh some of the weaknesses.
Yeah, whomever said that he didn't have elite talent, I would say really doesn't really know exactly what they're looking at.
Did he get out of the scouting business?
He wouldn't be on my staff. I'll put it that way.
All right. Yeah.
Because from a standpoint of catch radius, catching in traffic, his ability, his awareness on the sideline, his ability to drop his weight in and out of routes. I mean, all those things, I think for a guy his size, is excellent to elite. His hands are excellent to elite. Now, they'll all drop one or two every now and again. That's just a concentration thing. It's not necessarily a hands thing. But this guy has some traits that will translate to the NFL easily. So I really like this player. I like some of the things he can do. And again, the speed doesn't scare me because and the weight doesn't scare me. We're talking about a guy 195 pounds. Can you tell me the size of the corners he's going to be playing against? They're going to be about 195 pounds.
Yeah.
So what are we saying? At the end of the day, what are we saying? I mean, that's the way the football is. And with the amount of plays that's being run, he's got a unicorn on the other side of him, and that receiver who's 220 pounds. I mean, that's right. A unicorn.
Yeah.
Okay. He's 195 pounds. So I would say at 6'3", 195, I would be excited to have that guy on my football team. And again, I think he's going to run in the low 4.5s to high 4.4, but whatever that is, that number will fluctuate depending on how much you like him. If you don't like him, it'll be a 4.5, 1 or 2, and if you like him, it'll be 4.48, 4.47. So that's how that number will fluctuate.
Sure. Brian, we mentioned Jeremiah Smith, kind of tongue in cheek there. Jeremiah has 72 receptions. He's averaging 13 yards per. He's got 11 touchdowns. Carnell has 44 receptions. He's averaging 18 yards, and he has 8 touchdowns. But I don't hear anything like, hey, look for me. I should be the number one. I think he's very satisfied in the role that he has to help his team and try to win a second national championship and do something that hasn't been done by only a couple of players in the history of this great game of college football. If I'm a general manager, I'm not going to ask Joey because I'm going to ask you. Is that something, a trait that you have, hey, he's not selfish, or at least he's selfless when he needs to be? Is that something that portrays itself into being another aspect that any team that drafts him would want to have?
I mean, it could be potentially, but, some of the best receivers ever do it. Like we talked about T.O. earlier. T.O. was not that guy, but he, the production was there and he's an elite talent. But I think it helps with him being able to come in and mesh into his system and with his teammates and with whatever quarterback, ends up having the privilege to throw him the football next season in the NFL. I think it helps out a lot in that regard. But, it's a lot of it is just attitude and mindset. I think Carnell has both of those things down pat. I think he's got a great attitude. I think he's got a great mindset. And I think if you listen to him talk, he's very much so about the team, about Ohio State winning football games. And I don't think he probably doesn't even know how many catches he has on the year. He probably doesn't even really care. It's about production. It's about winning football games. And he's like I said, he's a big reason why Ohio State. I know we talk about the guy on the other side, right? But Carnell in his own right has been very, very good. And he's taking a lot of pressure off of that other guy because they can't just double team him every single time and put all the focus on him in the passing game.
Yeah, agree. And Joey, you are a general manager, and I know it's not the most important trait, but it is a nice box to check when you're checking boxes to have an additional one to go, hey, this guy is a team player, and we've seen it at the highest level over the last couple of years. He's played with selfless, reckless abandon to help his team out. That has to be something that you take into consideration if it's a tie between two guys. Right now, he doesn't appear to be tied with many other guys.
Right. I think attitude matters. Okay. Football is a team sport. Okay. And anybody that's selfish, you have to look, you really have to look twice about it because that's not going to change. If a guy is selfish in college, he's going to keep being selfish. That's his nature. Okay. So you have to know what you're getting. It's like again, I've used this analogy before. It's like, if you put money in the stock market, you need to know exactly what you're putting money in, everything about that player. You need to know his demeanor. You need to know how he's going to react when the games are down. And he hadn't faced that other than last year versus Michigan when they lost. But when things are going bad, how is he going to react? Okay. So that's the kind of thing you want to know about this player. He reminds me a little bit of the number 2 receiver in Cincinnati right now.
T. Higgins.
T. Higgins.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of T. Higgins.
I think it's
in
a
him.
good comp. Yeah.
And I really like this guy, and I do think in the right situation he could be a 1B or a 1A. You never know, because again, if you have a receiver core that's full of 1B guys or two number 2s, and you can run the ball and they're doing everything, that's good enough to win with. I mean, we watch Super Bowl after Super Bowl, and there's some teams that the best receivers in the league don't always get to play in the Super Bowl, and there's a reason why.
Yeah.
It's all about team.
Yep, I agree with all of that. Well, Carnell Tate, wide receiver from Ohio State University, one of the 2 players that we're going to look at. The other is Cashius Howell, a defensive end out of Texas A&M. Little undersized in some people's minds. He's anywhere between the 6th and the 9th, depending on who's ranking him. Defensive end, edge rusher, 6'2", 248. The height could be an issue, but 248 with that height, this is a stout human being now. He's strong. He runs a 4.65. He's just as fast as a wide receiver we talked about, and all the qualities that you will want in a edge rusher, but he's not Myles Garrett. He's not 6'6". And 295. So I know that we have a lot of things that we can talk about. Joey, the first would be 29 tackles, but 11 and a half sacks here as a junior. I'm sorry, he's a senior. Please forgive me. He's a senior. Carnell Tate's a junior. 6 passes deflected, a forced fumble. So that tells me he's around the ball. And he's not just a exclusive edge rusher. He had forced sacks last year, and in 2023 had 9.5 to kind of get himself started at Bowling Green. Joe, I'm going to start with you. What are some of the things that really stick out in your mind about Cashius Howell and his ability at the highest level here at the SEC level, and obviously in the college football playoff? What are you going to be looking for?
Well, first and foremost, he's not going to be a defensive end. And at Texas A&M, he's an edge rusher / outside linebacker. Okay, so that's his natural position. So it says defensive end, but that's really not telling the whole picture. He's an outside linebacker / edge rusher. But the traits he has are pretty special. This guy has some quickness off the ball. He's got special bend and sink, just like the picture you see here that we're showing of him going around the tackle. He can get low. He can make a guy miss. He's got quickness to spin. He doesn't have great power, but he's strong enough to set the edge. When run play comes, he gets upfield. He can anchor down and set the edge and force the run back the other way or make the tackle. So the traits you like about him are the fact now they drop him in coverage sometime, not a lot, in short coverage, not a lot. That's not where he's going to make his money, dropping in coverage. When you can when you can rush the passer, you'd be a fool to take your best pass rusher and drop him in coverage. But he can do that. He's shown the ability to do that. But he's not going to be a man-to-man cover guy. He's strictly a zone drop guy, curl flat guy is what he is. But yeah, he's got bursts off the edge. He has sink, bend. He has finish. He's got a great lower body build. He's just 6'2", 248. But to look at him physically, his lower body, in his ass and thighs and calves, he is put together pretty good, and it shows in his play. He's the kind of guy that you like if you're going to get a guy that's slightly undersized, especially versus the run. He's got the body type that you like.
Before I go to Brian, Joey, he reminds me a little bit with that description of a Vic Beasley type of guy. And what are you doing dropping Vic Beasley near the end of his career with the Falcons? They drop him in coverage and have him out in the flat to get the dump off pass, or somebody that's trying to gain a few yards, a wide receiver, just get in the lane and do stuff like that. I think it would be a waste to do that with him. Although you may want to surprise a little bit and just say, okay, you expect him to rush instead of double teaming him. We're going to bring some pressure off the edge or bring a safety and drop him back into coverage every now and then. But his explosive first step, that's the thing for me that really sets you apart. If you can, at the snap count or when the center starts to move the ball, force a team to get back even further to block against you, that's a difference maker. And he has that, doesn't he? Cashius does.
Absolutely. He has that in spades. He's got a great feel for the snap at times. He's got, again, the thing that's really impressive is just his hip and lower body flexibility, because he can get low, he can get under that tackle's arms, and he can twerk his upper body where he can slip a block with the hand use, and he's got the first step quickness to bend and accelerate to the quarterback. So he has a lot of the skills and traits that you'd like to see in an elite rusher.
Yeah, and I mentioned Vic Beasley, Brian, because Vic had an amazing first step, but he didn't have the power. And it seems like Cashius does have some of that ability to go, if we go into a bull rush, I can still fight you. I may not win every time, but you're going to know I'm there because my speed and the threat of me going around the edge is enough for you to have to set differently than when you would against a guy that just bull rushes only.
Well, his hands are strong enough and quick enough and violent enough he wants to keep the tackle from getting his hands on him altogether. He says, hey, if I can get him off me, if I can keep him off balance, if I can keep my momentum moving too, which he does a great job of kind of chopping your hands, keeping balance while he's bending everything. If you watch him play, he can almost contort his body just perfectly. You can see it sometimes where the tackle can't even touch him, and he just goes right around him, and you're wondering why. And then you watch in slow motion what he's able to do. It's pretty remarkable. It truly is. One of the pictures I have up here, I think it was against Utah State. He had 3 sacks in a row on a drive. I think it was to open up the game. And it's just, he could beat you in a variety of different ways, as he did in that sequence of 3 plays. But, I think he almost had an interception when they did one of those flare outs in coverage, actually, when they dropped him back kind of as a surprise thing. He's not terrible out there in coverage, but his money is going to be made, like Joey said, rushing the passer, because he's very, very good at it. If you watch him over the last couple of years, drastic improvement. I think the extra year that he was granted, I think it was a COVID year, it worked wonders for him. He's night and day a much better football player, and he's anchoring one of the best defenses, one of the best teams in the country right now in Texas A&M. And he's playing very meaningful snaps against good opponents, and he's still putting up really good numbers.
You mentioned a lot of things that I have on my scouting report: long arms, advanced hand fight ability, great energy. He can cover. He's not the best in the world, but at 4'6", he can cover. He's got the ability to do so. Real high IQ, which goes hand in hand with he has multiple moves. He's not just a one-dimensional guy. And that, Joey, isn't something that you can teach very well. You almost have to have that to work on it. You can't get it when you're in the league for 5 years and just turn that on. You've got to have the ability to be able to go around somebody, go through somebody, or to spin and move and get them off their spot, so you can do that. And he seems to show signs of that in his incredible first step. Am I missing anything?
No, I think it's a lot easier to add that repertoire to your game when you're athletic. If you're a stiff guy doing it, then all those things don't really work. You know what I mean? But if you're flexible and you can bend, and now you're adding a spin move, now you're adding a chop, now you're adding beating the guy upfield. Now you can go speed to power. You're rushing the guy, and as soon as the guy turns his hips, he opens up his hip. Then you run through his numbers. When you're athletic and you have those athletic traits and you have speed, then those other things come a lot natural. If you aren't able to scare people with your athletic ability, then they can sit on you because they know you're playing with power. They aren't afraid of your speed.
And speaking of speed, doing this at full speed, recognizing as a defensive end or an outside linebacker what the offensive tackle is going to try to do to stop you. Is he going to set quickly and not let me get an edge because he expects me to be fast? For you to be able to determine that very quickly and then be able to bull rush that guy and have him end up hitting the quarterback and knocking him off the spot, that there are not many people that can do that because they don't have the power and the speed and the smarts to be able to recognize that. Is that something that you've seen develop, Brian? You've watched some film. You said, 3 plays in a row, there's a tackle that didn't stand a chance against this kid, but that's against Utah State. Now he's playing against LSU, he's playing against Ole Miss, and he's going to be playing against Ohio State, or he'll play against Indiana here very quickly in terms of the playoff. Does he show the signs for you that coming from a small school, going to A&M, and then being able to play at the pro level, that he's got it, whatever it is?
I think he's able to adapt. I think, like Joey said, if you just have raw talent at a certain point, you just have to have the right coaching staff, and you have to the correct situation around you to be able to hone those skills. And he had it at Bowling Green. He just, he figured it out a little bit later, right? It's just he didn't have it the first year, maybe the second year, the third year. He says, hey, I can rush the passer. I know what I'm doing. And then he goes to Texas A&M, and the numbers weren't, superb last year, but he's at an elite level right now. And he's very talented, and that translates at any level, right? When you have the bend, when you have the get off, that translates at, it doesn't matter if you're playing high school, junior, D3 ball, Texas A&M, it really doesn't matter, if you're playing the NFL. He's got skills, and he's got the ability to, I think adapt at any level. And I think any coach is going to be licking his chops. People say, hey, I saw you do it in college. Now here's how you got to do a little bit differently in the pros. And I think he's going to be just fine figuring that out.
Yeah, it seems like his football acumen is such that he's able to read the steps. And what I mean by that is you for an elite pass rusher, where the quarterback is going to set up, depending on the play call, which is third down. So you have to understand where the tackle's drop is. So if you know this tackle, he's going to give you a hard set at 4 or 5 yards. If you can push and get his hip turn, make him open his hips, and you can go underneath, you can create space. If that's getting wide, if that tackle is going to get wide with you, then you've already created a yard or two for a spin move, for a long arm, whatever you're trying to do. So I think his football acumen from that standpoint of knowing where the quarterback is setting up, how the tackle is going to play him, and that all comes through film study, is really good. And then you can use the tools that you have.
Yeah, I agree with everything you say. And if I could add one piece of my scouting, you don't know, you can't measure what it's in a heart, where the kid has. And it's very difficult to measure when a young man is going to mature and be at the right place at the right time. Here's a 2 or 3 star kid. He's not recruited heavily. He didn't get recruited to A&M. He ended up there because he worked his tail off. He got better. He played, and he learned. And then he got to the point where, as you said, Brian, first, second, maybe third year, he builds the confidence, and he makes the flip up to A&M, and they can't wait to get him because they watch him on film. And this kid can play for us, and he does. He may not have been there at 17 or 18 or 19 even, but he eventually got there. So God bless Cashius Howell and the story that he has, and so many other players that, they're 16, 17, 18, Joey, and they're at the best level they're ever going to be. They can't get any better. And there's nothing wrong with that. And they go to a school and they go with a bunch of other guys. And then you got Cashius Howells that are just looking for a spot to play, and they get on the field. And next thing you know, they're better. They've improved. They've enhanced what they're doing and worked on that talent. It's rare, but when it does happen, and again, I'm just delighted for him and so many of the other guys. What's your experience been with that, Joey, and seeing a guy that isn't the same player at 17 that he is when he's 19 or 20?
Well, I think we're living that today in the NIL and the portal exchange that's going on here, because you're getting guys from the smaller schools that are coming up, like the Tennessee quarterback come from App State in junior college. Now he's playing in the SEC. The Vanderbilt's quarterback, Pavia. I mean, you get more. Trinidad Chandler's, the Ole Miss quarterback. I mean, so you get more and more of these stories all the time with guys, because you can't coach grit, you can't coach hard, you can't coach toughness, and the things that those guys have develop over time. Okay, so yeah, that's why I don't like the star system. We're going to get this 5-star guy. Well, he might be a 5-star coming out of high school, but by the time he's a junior in college, some of these 3-star, 2-star guys have passed him by leaps and bounds because of the work ethic, because of the toughness, the hunger, the love for the game, all these things. Sometimes when you get things too soon, your work ethic goes down. And I think that's what we see in today's college football.
Yeah, I completely agree. The 5-star athlete and the prominence and the brand that goes associated with that, and the girls, the glory, the gold. There's some stuff that it changes a player, and they don't work as hard. And that 3 or 4-star that wants it can overtake you, and a lot of times they do. So there's going to be stories like this that we're going to be telling all throughout the season, the rest of the college season, of course, and then going into the NFL offseason, all the way up into the draft. We're going to look at some players and take a real slicing, dissecting, bit by bit view of their talents and where they might fit in to your favorite NFL team. So for Joey Clinkscales, our NFL general manager, a scout, a personnel director, and Brian LeBel, our NFL and our NCAA analyst, we want to say thank you for tuning into the 2026 Prospect Show. We're going to profile players all throughout the year, and we appreciate you being a part of the two that we looked at today with Cashius Howell and Carnell Tate from Texas A&M and Ohio State University, respectively. And we appreciate all of you being around to watch the show. Thank you so much for tuning in to 100 Yards.